Welcome to Taking the Rams by the Horns, a podcast that takes current affairs out of current affairs. This is a podcast, an award-winning podcast. Don't forget that, in partnership with Sowetan Live. I'm your host, Rams Mabote. You know, there are many people in the world, estimated to be about 8 billion in the world. In our country, around 68 million or so, if we count all of them. It could be more. It is okay to stay under the radar when there are so many people. You know, it's just fine to keep under the radar and not put your head up because you will get noticed. Like in your entire life, until Sunday the 3rd of August, did you know of anybody called Tebogo Malaka? And if you had not known of them on the 3rd of August in 2025, would you have known of them 3rd of August 2026, 2036, 2000 if you live that long? Chances are not. But she chose that you must know her. She chose Stellenbosch as the scene where she must be seen. Right? Who is Tebogo Malaka? For those of you who've been sleeping on current affairs, she's the suspended CEO of the Independent Development Trust, which IDT was under investigation by one Louie Maybeck of the Daily Maverick. Now, before I tell you more about this story, let me tell you about Louie Maybeck. He is one of the most vicious investigative reporters in this country. He has even written books about stories of corruption. So, when this guy is on your case, lie low. Not our Tebogo Malaka. So on Sunday, the 3rd, she goes to Stellenbosch to meet Louie Maybeck. And she's accompanied by her spokesperson, one Pasha Magolane. Why? Well, Maybeck had been investigating a suspicious tender at the IDT to the value of 800 million. Later, the investigation zoned into Malaka and her financial affairs. It did not look good. Seemed like the CEO had acquired a portfolio of properties worth millions of rand without banking finance, which is not always easy, you know, when you come from our background, man, without banking finance. You have to be very lucky. And yet, it didn't seem like it came from her own finances either, right? In fact, according to Daily Maverick, an IDT supplier seemed like the benefactor, according to Daily Maverick. So I'm not here to deal with the substance. I'll leave that to Daily Maverick. And note, these have remained untested allegations. So to deal with the allegations first, Pasha Magolane, the right-hand man to the suspended CEO, contacts Maybeck and unprovoked. And he says to him, man, I need to meet with you to discuss mutual issues. Let me tell you, mutual issues. Well, at that meeting, Magolane then told the journalist that they would reward him if he dropped the story. Reward him. He promised to bring his boss to the next meeting, and within days of arriving in Johannesburg, he started setting into process the acts of reward. He sent Maybeck a tender document of a project in the Western Cape and said, look, you can find your own suppliers and we will give you this tender. An investigative journalist who focuses on corruption in the public sector. All right, what do we know? Maybe he had some inkling that this time the offer would be so good that Louie Maybeck would drop the story, right? Or maybe, the Daily Maverick, like a lot of all these publications, are battling. They're on a shoestring budget. So maybe they could offer them to rescue them from their problems, then they would drop the story. So finally then, on the 3rd of August, Sunday, Magolane delivered on the bigger promise. He brought to Stellenbosch the boss, his own boss, to meet the main man, their man, Louie Maybeck. Except he was not their man, it turned out. Actually, he was far removed from being their man. He arranged for the meeting to be filmed. Typical investigative journalist, right? I don't know what these guys are coming up with. I have no backup. It's two of them. It's going to be their word against mine. I need some bit of backup. And I can't bring other people because they're going to be suspicious. So we plant the cameras like the one I'm talking to, right? But I'm aware of this one, unlike them. In fact, I pay for this one. So we must note this. Malaka, by this time, is suspended as the IDT CEO. So I'm not sure what capacity she's in this meeting as, even though she does mention herself as Pasha's boss as she speaks to Peter Louie. But she was going to deal with the allegations on her property portfolio. No sooner had the meeting begun did she order Pasha Makgolane to leave her alone with Peter Maybeck, a man she has never met. Peter Maybeck had been dealing with Pasha. But, she says, I'm the boss. I want to talk to you man to man, woman to man, right? Boss to reporter. At this moment, she told the investigative journalist that she will need him to close this chapter. I will need you to close this chapter. This is on video. She told him she did not want him to write about this matter anymore. She wanted peace. These are her words. I want peace. I need peace. She told him that she had children and parents who have suffered because of the investigation. Maybeck, bloody shyster, seemed to be playing ball, right? He was nodding, like, yeah, I hear you, seemingly in agreement, In the meantime, Abur Makaplan, like, I'm going to catch you. Like, and she can see the sympathy, right? And therefore, when he calls Makgolane back into this conversation, she feels like I have reached this man's heart, this good man's heart. So he's going to accept our mutual matter and, walk away, and this thing will disappear. So moments later, Makgolane, after he had sat down, he pulls out a shopping bag. And I must say, I was not going to mention it by name, but it has become the most famous thing out there. It's a Dior shopping bag. So I'm not even sure whether they had gone past Dior first or it had always been in his bag or that's his style. No, he's a Dior man. And he pulls out 60,000 Rand in 200 Rand notes. Now, I'm not the kind of guy to advocate bribery. But if you are accused of obtaining properties worth millions of Rand, I think we're talking about anything up to about 22 million Rand, and then there's a tender, 800 million Rand tender that's false, I think you are slightly insulting to the other person if you're offering them 60,000 Rand to keep quiet. Because even if you offered them 12 million and they said no, you would have felt like they are ungrateful. But at 60,000 Rand, I think by lahlile, right? Even though I suspect from where I sit, the Daily Maverick and Peter Louie Maybeck would not have taken anything, even if it was to save the Daily Maverick from their financial problems. So they offer the 60,000. He takes the money. Pasha offers the money. So, in fairness, at that point, Tebogo is sitting there with some paper in her hand. She's watching on, right? She's not saying a word. It's this man who pulls out the bag, gives it to the reporter. Maybeck, bloody bugger, takes out the money from the bag and he takes a picture of the money, as in, I don't want you guys to cheat me. At that point, nobody's raising their eyebrows. I would have known when he took a picture that why would want to take a picture of normal South African Rand, right? But no, they're okay. Our guys, they're dealing with a good brother called Peter Louie Maybeck in Stellenbosch. He takes a picture and then he says, I won't be taking your bribe, unfortunately, and I'm not dropping the story. And he upped and left. You should have seen their faces. Actually, please go to the Daily Maverick site and look at that video, because there is a video. They could have died at that moment, both of them. But quickly, Our friend Mr. Pasha takes this money, forgets about the Dior bag and puts the money under his armpit, like hiding, and he looks about like who's watching us. Too late, mate. You put it there earlier. You're not thinking about who's watching you, right? So a man lives, they live also thereafter. And that's where the tape ends. But there are questions I want us to deal with. And this is the purpose of today's episode. So this was just background. Here's the purpose of this podcast. My questions in my head. Why travel together to Stellenbosch to go offer a bribe? You're not going there for an interview. You're not going there to straighten up matters. You're going for a bribe. Is it necessary to get into your cars, drive to the OR Tambo Airport or take the Gautrain, fly to Cape Town International Airport, drive a good 60 kilometers to Stellenbosch to go meet this man at a wine farm, Nogal. A wine farm, a famous white farm. The same Stellenbosch of white monopoly capital. You go there, the two of you, to offer a bribe to a journalist. Well, also, did they not bother to know who Maybeck and Daily Maverick are? I mean, really, if this guy is a spokesman, I would expect him to know this kind of stuff, right? I would expect him to know who Louie Maybeck is, who the Daily Maverick is, and to tread carefully. And as I asked, in which capacity was she meeting the journalist? Because she was suspended, although she does mention that she was boss. Well, with the cat, or shall we say the cash out of the bag, it was time for spin. Now spin comes in. We gotta save ourselves. First, a guy called Michael Andisile Mayala writes an opinion article on Independent Online where he called Public Works Minister Dean McPherson and Daily Maverick. He called on them to stop their targeted attacks on Malaka. Whole opinion article, good 800 to 1,000 words, makes all sorts of allegations about how they've been on her case, how she's a great CEO, and blah, 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 blah. He produces no single thread of evidence of proving her not guilty of what she's been accused of, nor is he proving how Dean McPherson is involved in this. But hey, he gets published, right? I like, though, how he describes himself at the end of the article. He describes himself as an independent writer, analyst, and commentator. What is the first thing that you do when you hear that? I go Google this fellow. I find absolutely nothing, like zero. He's never written anything else, or at least that's on the ether. It's not there, because everything I've written you can find. There's nothing about this guy except a picture of him where he looks rather well fed. I could have used another description, but we don't do that. He looked like he must watch his diet. That's much I can say. No biography, no previous writings, no previous analysis. Whole and piece on independent newspapers. I'm thinking, why are you doing this to yourselves? Why? Well, as if that was not enough, just before I came to record this episode, IOL had removed his world-class analysis. It's nowhere to be seen now. I wish I had cut it out that time and put it up for you to see. Well, you can't find anymore that analysis of our great Mr. Mayala, because even the IOL themselves thought, man, this guy, corner. We should not be trusting him. Well, with that spin number one gone, they activate spin number two. Seeing that nobody was taking Amanyala Kamayala, then they go to a certain Ayanda Jele on behalf of the Malaka Family Trust. He repeats the allegations that Mayala, the CEO in this case, or the suspended CEO, is politically attacked by Daily Maverick on the edging of the Department of Public Works. He says, now speaking about what happened on the 3rd of August in Stellenbosch, that it was a trap, that Tebogo Malaka was trapped by the journalist, and that there was no bribe offered. There was no bribe offered. So I said then, I thought, Do you think they were giving rather Peter Louie Maybeck the 60,000 rand to settle the coffee bill? And if so, why didn't they settle it themselves? After all, they are the host, even though they went to him. Technically, he is the host, but they actually are the ones who are hosting this meeting. So why give him the money? And I think the tip would have been way too much even for the waiter or waitress. They would have thought something is not right here. So if it's not a bribe, what is it? But do you know why he says it's not a bribe? Because the CEO did not offer the bribe. That's what Jele says. 2, he says she did not touch the money. As if that's what qualifies a bribe to a bribe. So what if you get it by e-wallet? like how does it work? So you should first touch it, then it becomes a bribe. If it's not touched, it doesn't become a bribe. And then he rubbish the validity of the recording, claim that, they were all doctored. He says, they could have been cut to not show the full story. And that I accept, by the way. There is no way that they would have shown the whole tape, right? But it is difficult, like completely difficult for me to think of that thing as anything but a bribe. But then again, even this podcast could be fiction, right? I mean, do you know that I exist? So, here are my questions. So, this family trust, they all said, and I'm hoping they would have said because they're all family, right? They workshopped this matter. And then they agreed that this is the strategy to take to save our family member. Not only that, and then they agreed that Jele, this man, should be the one speaking on behalf of the family trust. Like, really? Guys, Jele. Well, Tebogo, you're going to jail. If you trust this man so much to speak for you, that's exactly where you're going. Why? And anyway, are family trust a thing nowadays? I mean, why is there so many family trusts? Suddenly, everybody has a family trust. In fact, I think next episode I must do this episode under the auspices of the Ramsma about a family trust. So, having asked those questions, I'm going to conclude by giving advice to these individuals, collectively and individually. And I'm going to start with Pasha Makholan, who, by the way, I also Googled and I couldn't find his history as a spokesperson anywhere. Normally, spokespeople would have, some of them, not all of them, would have been, journalists in the past or having worked in other spaces. Couldn't find him, which also makes me feel that it makes sense that he would not give the greatest of advice, but that's not the point. So, Pasha Makholan, if you are going to bribe a journalist, for crying out loud, do not expose your boss. You cannot do that. The journalist must believe your boss is not involved in the bribe. You can't throw them under the bus right there. Even if there was nothing recorded, Peter Louie Maybeck would have gone back to his office and say they were together there. Pasha and Tebogo Malaka. In fact, he would have probably insisted on a selfie so that he's got evidence that you guys were there, but he didn't need a selfie. He had enough cameras around and microphones. We hear the voices of you guys speaking to him. Preferably, though, don't bribe a journalist. Preferably. I would never advise you to do that. In fact, don't bribe anyone, man. Not even the Metro Police, although the Metro Police would have taken that money. That much I know. And they would have been generous to give even some change because they don't get 60,000 rand worth of bribe normally. But don't bribe. It's not a good thing to do. And Tebogo Malaka, if you are in trouble with the media, get experts to help you. Not subordinates that you can chuck them out of meetings with journalists. You need an expert to help you. You don't need to get into suitable solutions or whatever it is. No, you don't do that. Right? Meeting a journalist and pleading for mercy is like a vegetarian asking a bull not to attack them. Like, because I'm a vegetarian, don't attack me. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't plead for mercy because you've been and because your parents are not well and you've got children. When did you know that they're not well? Were they well when you took the not the bribe, the reported offer of property by other people? And then suddenly they don't get well. Nah. There are no mutual issues where journalists are concerned. Let me tell you, I've been in that camp before. And I extricate myself, so I'm going to say they. Hey, those people are vicious. Hey, Tebogo, Journalists are vicious. There is one or two exceptions out there, but these guys, when they have a story, it doesn't matter what you offer them. You can take them to the grand for they're not going to take it. There are no mutual issues, especially in Stellenbosch. Why do you go to Stellenbosch to discuss mutual issues? What happened to a telephone call? What happened to gathering your facts and disproving what they are alleging against you? Because that's what you should be doing. You should be saying, you are wrong. This property worth this much, this is my bond, or this is my family trust that paid for it, or this is my whatever, nest egg that my dad or my mom left for me before they got sick when they got to know that I give bribes. So I don't get it, guys. So my advice, finally, I could suggest a few places where you want to go when you want to incriminate yourself like this and get away with murder. But I'm not going to, because I'll incriminate myself too. But don't go to Stellenbosch. But most preferably, don't offer a bribe. And when all else fails, read a book, especially the kind of book like this one. It will never get you into trouble, especially not this kind of trouble. It may get you into other trouble, but the Swedish taboo is different. Available at every respectable bookstore. Much cheaper than 60,000 rand. Actually, only 300 rand. You'll be left with change, and you don't have to offer to anyone in some cold, chilly Stellenbosch cafe in a wine farm. From me, Rems Mabote, goodbye and God bless.